In what way is the Board of Education considering advances in AI as applied to K-12 curriculum? And what are the opportunities and what are the threats to education in your view?
I think we need to acknowledge that we are at the beginning of what AI is going to do in our schools. I think a lot of people use ChatGPT and are familiar with just the beginnings of what it can do right now. Our Director of Digital Learning is doing a 5 workshop series for the board this year, and we had our first one last Thursday. He sees it and I see it. It's both an opportunity and a threat, and we need to be driving the bus or wagging the dog and not the dog wagging us. We need to get our arms around this, and we need to see how AI can enhance the school experience. AI has the ability to enhance and not replace human intelligence and judgment. And I think it's a great opportunity for individualized learning if we can get to grips with it and really incorporate it into our classrooms. It's a great opportunity for individualized instruction. A teacher can only do so much individual learning when you sit with a classroom of 25 kids in front of you. AI offers adaptive support for kids, instant feedback, one-to-one instruction in an area that one student might need and another student doesn't. Students don't need another screen to sit in front of, as we've discussed. But if it's used with intention, and if it helps students become more engaged with the content, I think that it could be a force for good in our classrooms.
Mr. Shaner?
So, full disclosure, I work for a company that builds AI models for other companies, and this is a thing that I think is really important for us to stay ahead of. I was at a Board of Ed meeting about 2, maybe 3 years ago when ChatGPT was first sort of breaking out, and the board asked a question. There was a lot of fear in the education community about how this would impact learning. And at the time, they received a piece of advice that said, don't worry, it's going to be 2 to 3 years before this thing is good enough to matter. And I remember after that meeting pulling one of the board members aside and saying, as somebody in the industry, let me tell you, that's wrong. The thing that OpenAI had released at that moment was not their leading edge model. It was a model that was already 2 years old. And so what we've seen over the last few years is, yes, they've been building more models, and they've been getting closer to the frontier. And so we're seeing more and more. Then you get into the question of what should the board be doing about it? Because I'm not privy to what the board is currently doing about it behind the scenes. But when I think about this question, I think there's a couple of things that really matter here, and a couple of things we have to think about. Like, first of all, I think we have to be careful about assuming AI equals ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever, Sura, if you want to make videos of your friends, whatever your favorite application is. Those are general purpose models. There's a whole world out there of highly specific, dedicated models that are already achieving amazing results in the work world. And I think we have to be teaching our children about this technology because it's already becoming a part of how people get work done. And if we want to prepare them to be active citizens in the world, they have to at least understand it in the same way that they understand how calculators help them with their math. Then there's a second thing, which is we have to learn about its applications in the world, both the power and the risks associated, because we want our children to be informed consumers of what they receive. We'll come back to informed consumers in a second, but I think the third thing is something that Ms. Davies talked about, which is how to use the technology in the classroom. Like, one of the powerful things, in fact, there is actually a set of schools that's been experimenting lately with turning classrooms into places where children get a lesson and an AI system that provides individual personalization in the moment. Now, I don't know if that's right for Wilton, but I at least know it's a thing that we should be looking at and understanding whether this makes sense or not. We talked earlier about people who need services and getting outplacement. Like, can we use technology to provide the kind of personalization and scaffolding that those children need to be successful? I don't know, but I think we have to look at it. And then the final thing that's important is about learning how to be an intelligent consumer of this technology. We're seeing AI slop, as it's called, in the world already. It is only going to get worse. And it is a thing that, as we think about our vision of a learner and what we want students to be as active and engaged participants in society, they have to be able to start to separate and know what they can trust and what they can't.
What is AI slop? What is that?
It's the proliferation of just fake stuff that is easy and cheap to produce.
So AI is here to stay. It is going to be part of our school, and I think we are obliged to roll it out and be in a thoughtful manner for our teachers. I think some of our teachers are anxious about it, and I think other teachers have completely embraced it. I think for the younger grades, it's probably not as appropriate yet, because teaching basically is a human business, so it really takes a teacher and a kid and somehow make a correlation together. AI, I think, can enhance that experience, and it can be very helpful to both. But we have to use it carefully, and we have to use it with a thoughtful approach. I am not a tech person. I will happily admit that. The board took one workshop, and I was trying very hard to, keep my focus, and I don't quite understand it, and I don't understand how it works. But you're right. We have to learn to use it, and it's going to be a part of their world more and more and more. And honestly, you were in a panel last spring, and there were a whole bunch of you, and you were all talking about how you use AI, and there were doctors and nurses, and Mark was on it, and every one of them at the end said, even though we're using AI, we still have to use this social emotional component to these kids, and we still have to make that work for them. And you all spoke about how important that was for schools to maintain that. And so I think we can balance the AI, still be teaching, still have it a human experience, but make sure that we incorporate the AI and not use the technology that I think will obviously be very beneficial to everybody if we use it right and we don't have the slop.
Any other comment on that question?
I'll just add one more, which is I think it's really important that we not lose sight of the fact that one of the key things our schools are trying to teach our students is how to think. And the real risk with these systems, I think, is when students outsource the thinking. We all used spell check for years to polish things. And to be honest, this to me this could be a world where people are learning how to use these systems to polish work, to polish their thinking as a thought partner. But if AI is helping them actually figure out what to say in the first place, then they completely checked out. And that's the thing I want to make sure that we're especially careful. And what we have to do is work with our faculty to figure out how to identify when that's happening. I agree with you, it's a very human interaction. And so the other thing that we're seeing in the university setting and in others is we have to find new ways of evaluating students that don't rely on things that are easily automated. The whole take-home written essay is becoming obsolete. And that's a thing we have to change manage for the faculty to help them make that transition.
I think the worrisome thing is that the kids are going to be able to access their own learning and not need a teacher in some ways. And then how do we manage that? How does the teacher manage the fact that their kids are going to access their own learning and they don't even know what they've done? And to me, that's where the hole is, and that's where, we all have to work very hard to help them find ways to be the teacher, even though their kids are accessing their learning not under their purview. And I don't know what the solution is, but I see that as a big problem.